Okay, so today I'm going to talk about CSIS, the CIA of Canada. They've been in the news a bit this year. Started off with a whistleblower scandal about Chinese influence on our elections. Kind of turned out to be a bit of a nothing burger, but still it was interesting that there was such a conservative-leaning whistleblower in the wings. Then in June, CSIS failed to protect a Canadian citizen who was murdered by agents of the Indian government. Modi sent somebody to kill a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil and was successful, despite CSIS knowing that it was going to happen, apparently. So, failure. Complete failure. And then most recently they're in the news because the British Columbia CSIS office seems to have had until extremely recently an active rapist on the staff, getting paid full money to take young women who had been sent from Ottawa to train in surveillance. They were put into a surveillance vehicle with this individual who then raped them. One woman was raped 9 times. She counted them. She kept evidence. She's a reliable witness. She's literally a security professional. So anyway, she complained. And the person previous to her that warned her this guy would be rapey, she complained too, because of course she had been raped. And it doesn't sound like it stops there. It sounds like it goes further. So now the head of CSIS, this fellow in the picture, he says, hey, no worries, that guy doesn't work here anymore. What a relief. That guy's been released into the general population. And he hasn't been corrected for his raping. He hasn't been prevented from raping again. And he hasn't been identified, so nobody knows who he is. So, turn that over. Okay. So, the key is that guy belongs in jail. He should be awaiting trial for rape. It's that simple. You rape somebody, you go on trial. You get charged with rape, you go to jail. But apparently the rules are different when you work with CSIS. Apparently this guy has a useful set of skills that, despite him being such a rapey bastard, managed to keep him on the payroll for a very long time. And at this point, they're just saying he doesn't work here anymore. They're not saying he's not on the payroll anymore. And they haven't identified him. And it does not sound like they've brought him to justice. So I can't say I would particularly want to work at CSIS. That's a toxic workplace from top to bottom, it sounds like. Because Mr. Rape, the rapey individual, was obviously empowered by the powers that be above him. Perhaps even the individual in the fancy blue suit. I'll bet he knows who Mr. Rapey guy is. And for some reason, he thinks just firing that guy is good enough. So I would say that isn't good enough, and that more heads need to roll. Perhaps the guy in the fancy blue suit. Because if the buck stops with him, he seems to be passing the buck. Because if you read this article that I'm, got this picture from, his woe is me story is that CSIS has its hands tied by 1980s legislation that forces it to ask for permission to, violate people's privacy. And that this is such a huge burden that, I guess rape is the only way to try to fix your feelings about that. But anyway, so he's citing regulations or legislation from the 80s. I think the quote was something about back when fax machines were new technology. Okay, well, that does sound terrible. But that also means that he's hoping nobody remembers the 2015 federal election, where a major issue was Bill C-55, which was obviously called the Secret Policeman's Bill. Okay? It specifically dealt with CSIS. It gave CSIS a whole bunch of new powers, some of them really creepy, like the ability to plant evidence. Okay? Yeah, these guys have the ability, they can ask permission from a judge somewhere to plant evidence on somebody. Why would you do that? Why would a law enforcement or any kind of, that's a dirty trick, okay? So they can plant evidence. So in 2015, obviously, they asked for some new powers and they got them. But you're telling me that they didn't fix those problems from the 1980s legislation because they were so intent on getting the ability to plant evidence? I don't know. My sympathy gland is just not functioning for CSIS right now. I feel like they are an incompetent organization. They are a fountain of failure. And they were unable to warn anybody or solve anything when it came to the convoy that paralyzed Ottawa for a month. They cite all kinds of bullshit about, oh, well, we can't tell you this. We can't tell the RCMP this. We can't tell the federal government this. We've got to keep this secret. Okay, I understand you're a secret organization and you deal in secrets, but it sounds like you're full of shit is what really is going on here. It really sounds like, as an organization, CSIS is full of shit. And I'm tired of it. I want to see some heads roll.